Let me start by saying I really don't want to be writing this, but I feel that it is necessary for my safety to figure out what's going on. Last week, my friend Daniel, not his real name, and me, John, again, not my real name, decided we were going to try and hide out overnight in the nearby furniture store. In retrospect, it sounds dumb, but we'd seen videos of people doing this on YouTube and had just gotten out of university for the summer, and we didn't have enough money to do anything more exciting. Now, the furniture store was huge. Think of an IKEA if you've never been in one. It was the size of a huge warehouse and had 3 stories. Our plan was to stow away under a bed or something until all the employees had left and then just screw around until morning. The store closed at 8 p.m. and we got there at 6 p.m., so we had ample time to find hiding places while there was still enough customers that we wouldn't attract attention from the staff. We went up to the 3rd floor, and there were mostly displays showing all of the furniture laid out in fake rooms. There was all sorts of rooms laid out. In the center of all of the displays, there was a dining room with 4 chairs. One of the chairs had a normal place setting, but the other 3 chairs had plastic plates with cartoon characters on them. When Daniel and I saw this, we took a quick glance at each other before both running to sit in the adult seat before the other. Daniel ran track, so I don't feel too bad that he beat me. "Sit down, Sonny," Daniel said in the adult chair with a grin on his face. "Oh, ha ha," I said. "These are probably all adult chairs and they just replaced the ceramic plates with plastic as they broke. You know, because there's only 1 parent and 3 children." "Stop complaining, son," Daniel said in a deep voice. "Oh, shut up," I said, laughing. We got up and continued walking around till 7 p.m. We decided we should probably find our hiding spots. Daniel found a kid's room with a race car bed. "Heck yeah!" he yelled out at a volume much too loud for a 20-year-old seeing a race car bed. "Cover me while I hide." He bent down pretending to look at the price tag while I stood covering him, pretending to take pictures or something, I don't know. Once he was under, I began trying to find a place of my own. After looking around, I figured that hiding under a bed was probably my best bet. I picked out a king-size bed that, when I was under it, if I looked straight, I could see the dining room in the center, and past that, the race car bed. For a little while, me and Daniel played rock, paper, scissors before I got bored and just decided to turn the brightness down on my phone and doom scroll until the store was empty. I was startled when all of a sudden I heard a sharp screech ring through the air. I looked at the time on my phone and it read 8 p.m. I thought it was odd that the store had an alarm that went off at closing time, but it only got stranger. All of the staff began to usher people out. Me and Daniel began exchanging frantic texts before assuming ourselves that it was probably some store policy so they didn't have to pay their employees overtime. By 8:05, it was dead quiet, and from what I could see, there was nobody left on the 3rd floor. I texted Daniel one last time to tell him that we needed to wait until they turned the lights out before we came out of our hiding spots. My phone then died, a victim of my TikTok addiction. I waited for what felt like 10-15 minutes when all of a sudden the metal double doors that led to what I believe was a storage room burst open and a dozen women dressed in formal attire marched out in a single file line. At this, me and Daniel exchanged puzzled glances. Upon further inspection, I noticed each of the women were carrying things. In order, the women were carrying a glass bottle of water, a bottle of wine, a basket with napkins and silverware, a candle, some sort of metal figurine that I couldn't make out any details on, a large covered platter, a green folded blanket, a red folded blanket, and a blue folded blanket, a 3-foot-tall doll of a girl with red hair, a 3-foot doll of a boy with short blonde hair, and a 3-foot-tall doll of a boy with brown hair. The women set the table with the food and drinks and placed a doll in each of the children's seats. The women worked mechanically, making sure that everything was neat. They placed the metal figurine in front of the adult place setting, and the 3 women with the blankets began walking away from the central dining table and moved towards the outer parts of the showroom. The one with the green blanket moved towards a kid's room display to my left, and the other one with the red blanket went to the display to my right. The one with the blue blanket walked straight away from me, right towards Daniel. She placed the blanket on the race car bed, and I met eyes with Daniel as she did. His face dropped. The bewilderment on his face was replaced by fear. Almost as quickly as they had appeared, the women retreated back through the double doors as orderly as they came. I was at a complete loss of what had occurred. It was closing time. What were they setting up for? And what were the dolls for? Unfortunately, my questions were answered in quick time. A hefty man in a dark red suit emerged from the same doors the women had come from just a moment ago. He walked over to the remaining chair and placed a hand on it. "Hello, children," he said coldly, his words reverberating in the now empty room. The way he said this sent a shiver down my spine, and I instinctually reached for my phone to record the situation. As I fumbled for my phone, I remembered it had died earlier. I looked over at Daniel and waved my phone towards him. He understood my gesture and began recording with his phone. When I looked back over to the dining room, I saw the man had sat down and began dining with the dolls. He was pouring them water and seemed to be talking to them. Something about this just disgusted me to my core. I retreated further back under the bed until I was pressed up against the wall the headboard was up against. I wanted to get as far away from this man as possible. My decision to hide under a king bed gave me this liberty, but Daniel, being under the children's bed, had no such luxury. I had partially curled up against the wall for what felt like at least an hour, listening to the whispered conversation the man was having with himself. From where I was, I couldn't really see the table anymore, but I knew this dinner had concluded when I heard a lone chair squeak as it was pushed back. At this, I moved slightly forward so that I once again could see the man. "Time for bed, my lovelies," he said in his soft but disturbing voice. With this, he picked up the blonde-haired doll as if it was a real... With this, he picked up the blonde-haired doll as if it were a real child and began walking directly away from me. I realized he was walking towards the race car bed and was filled with anxiety that Daniel could be discovered. By the look on Daniel's face, I could tell this anxiety was shared. The man placed the doll down and covered it with the blanket on the bed. He gave the doll an over-exaggerated kiss on the cheek. "I love you." Ugh, that made me sick. I watched as Daniel, now shaking, grabbed his phone, and as soon as the man began walking away, Daniel crawled out from under the bed and began a full sprint towards the stairs and towards the exit. As he left, he gave me a quick glance, conveying both the sorrow he felt and the utter fear. The man in the suit froze and began glaring at Daniel with pure hatred. Without any noise or motion from the man, two of the women from earlier hurried out. One had a revolver and the other a shotgun, and they each offered their gun to the man. The man took the revolver and let off one crack shot in the direction of Daniel. The bullet missed, and Daniel ran down the stairs. The man handed the revolver back to the women he had taken it from. The women had returned to the back room. The man continued to tuck in the other dolls, giving them both kisses and saying he loved them. The man walked over to the table and grabbed the metal figurine. He began walking towards the door. However, he stopped a few feet short. "It's rude to stare, you know," he said loudly. How had he seen me? I knew I had to run. He didn't have the guns with him, and the distance between me and him was greater than it had been with him and Daniel. I crawled out from under the bed and ran as fast as I could, as fast as I ever had. "I think I'll be seeing you for dinner soon," he called out. "And your friend as well." I kept running, expecting a gunshot to ring out, but nothing came. I ran down the stairs and through the front doors. Once I was outside, I didn't stop running. We'd taken an Uber there, and I wasn't familiar with the area, so I just kept running down random streets. As soon as my phone had any charge, I tried to call Daniel, but he didn't pick up. I texted him, but was left undelivered. I called my parents, and they came to get me in the morning. I didn't tell them anything that had happened. I told them I had been at the mall shopping and gotten a headache and just decided to stay the night there. I've been staying at their place for a few days now. I've texted Daniel. I've tried to message him on social media, but it looks like he's deleting all of his accounts. I thought he probably just was embarrassed by the fact he had abandoned me there until the morning. I woke up, and upon checking my phone, I saw a single message from an unknown number. The message contained no text and 2 emojis: a fork and a plate. I don't feel safe anymore. If they got my number, they somehow know who I am, or they have gotten to Daniel. Both horrific options. I could go to the police, but without the video that Daniel has my testimony, would probably lead to nothing but referrals to a psych ward. Now I'm left with a few questions. Did Daniel escape? If he did, how did they have my number? And most importantly, who is that guy? If it was just him, I could dismiss it as just some freak, but his posse of female servants takes this to a whole other level. Has anyone heard of some sort of cult acting like this? Any help navigating the situation would be greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for listening, guys. A quick shout out to my patrons: Kevin Kess, Sabiel Eclipse, 055555, Cormac Wells, Amara, Matthew Steiner, Cupcake Hips, Alonzo, Mr. Sankofa, Michael Milburn, Kozak, Icy Narrates, Jesse Hartley, Eric Cifuentes, Andreas Anderson London, Lawrence Wallen, Geek Sanctuary, Melissa Perez, and this guy. That is someone's actual username. I love that. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. If there's anything you would like me to pray for, I would love to know how I can be praying for you. I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.